Grazie, Presidente. I'm standing humble here after such wonderful two presentations. Unfortunately, fortunately my mind and my heart are speaking Italian, but the problem is my language. So I wouldn't mind coming here for much longer than only a couple of days to tell you something more about the Lanskronsky collection in my archives in Italian, but you need to give me a bit more time. So, scraps from a glorious past. I think my both predecessors were speaking about the scraps. We are just touching a bit instead of a wonderful palais in Vienna, instead of a wonderful collection, we just so much dispersed. Thank you very much for hosting me here during this fantastic and fabulous conference in this very beautiful room, surrounded by fantastic people, as well as documents and archival material. So I'm feeling like being at home. So today I would like to tell you something about this very small building, 17th century. So it's much, much older than both academies itself. So as we already know, the Lanskronsky collections, plural here, is dispersed among different institutions. We can find some scraps once again in Krakow, the Wawel Castle, in Royal Castle in Warsaw, Vienna. Unfortunately, not that place, but a bit. The Central State Historical Archives of Ukraine in Lviv, a wonderful archival materials, very, very rich. And of course, Polish Academy of Science and Arts in Krakow, I am a part of as an archives. And about the Lanskronsky Phototeka, my two colleagues from Krakow will be speaking immediately after my presentation. So very, very briefly, because let's say we are after all day, so we definitely it's not my aim to give you a very long history of the archives. It's a very young institution, as you can see, so the history is very, very short. And it's very specific institutions because it's archives of science, so we focus mainly on the materials connected with science, but as you're gonna see, also with arts. There are only two these kind of institutions in Poland. One is in Warsaw, much, much bigger, let's say it frankly, and one in Krakow with one branch in Poznań. What is specific? We have two academies, which is a bit strange because Poland is not such a big country. And a good question is, do we really need to have two academies? And let's make the whole story even much more complicated. Our government just founded a third one. Okay, so what do we say about the collections which are gathered in our archive? So here you have some numbers. I know that if you are not an archivist, so you can be bored with all these details. What I'm trying to say, we have three main parts. The first part is connected with the Polish Academy of Science and Arts, which was established in 1872 in Krakow and re-established immediately after the communism. This Krakow and the oldest academy was closed during the communist era. And then the Polish Academy of Science in Warsaw as the most important academy in Moscow, it was established. That is why we have two academies. And what is the most interesting material, with all respect to academies? These are the various individuals' collections. And among these collections, I think the Lanskronsky collection is absolutely important. You may say that we are a very small and humble institution, and you are absolutely right. But if you try to find something on Mongolia and Russian artifacts from the 19th century, we have the best collection just after Mongolia, which is very, very rare. If you'd like to say something about the world of Anglosphere, especially 19th century and 20th one, you can find also two wonderful collections, very, very rich ones. Wincenty Lutowsławski, all over the world, Italy, Spain, Anglosphere, Germany, as well as Latvia. Paris and European intellectuals, you are all in the same room. About Karolina Lanskronská and Italy, it is just a small fragment about Italian collections, plural, yeah? Central Asia, Antarctica. So what I'm trying to say, that you may find lots of different materials, as my predecessor was speaking about this collection here, even if the name of the archives is totally different. So what is important? The people and the activities and all wonderful stories hidden behind. So finally, to the topic. As a matter of fact, even if the story of the Lanskoroński family in the Polish Academy of Science in Krakow is much, much longer, the donation of the archival materials is a very short story. It started in 1997. Some acts from London were transferred immediately to Krakow. And because the Academy has asked so, the archives, that is why we decided to keep it. So mainly biographical, scientific and family materials, as well as very nice collection of photographs. About the photographs, I think my colleagues will say much more immediately after. What is very, very nice, the Rozdur or Rozdiel in Ukrainian library. Very, very precious. Unfortunately, only a part of it, majority disappeared. Further donation. So 1997 is just the first start. 2001, the typescript of Memories of War, very touching, powerful history of Karolina Lanskorońska and what she suffered, what she was doing during the war. Because we know about the concentration camps, but this is just a part of her story. 2003. A gift from Rome. We are in Rome, so the gift from Rome. So biographical documents, medals, diplomas, correspondence, as well as photographers. 2004, a very large donation, so 10 running meters is a very large donation. Also about the foundation, and scholarship holders. And if I'm not mistaken, Professor Miziołek is also hidden in our archives as a holder of the scholarship. If we are speaking about the last donation, so you may see that since 1997 there is very extensive contacts between Karolina Lanskorońska and those who inherited her legacy. So last donations were mainly connected with the foundation, as well as correspondence of the family, as well as the governess and the family friend Eleonora Rzeszotko. So generally speaking, we are having 17 running meters. So I would say it's not such a small collection if you are speaking about the family or personal legacy. So let's get started with the collection of photos, which I think is the most interesting, especially for those of you who has nothing to do with Lanskoroński at all. It's a separate collection than the Lanskoroński Phototeka. About the Phototeka will be just in a moment. What I'm trying to say, there are different photos. Some of them were taken by the best photographers of the epoch. Some of them are just amateur photography, yeah? Mostly taken by the members of the Lanskoroński family. What you may find in POW Art digital collection, so online, this is more than 2,600 developed and identified items. So you can just Google out and you can easily find what my colleagues were doing for the last couple of years. Family, lots of very nice collections. This is young Karolina with a dog. I'm a dog lover, so I do apologize that I decided to put also this photo over here. And collections from various places, but also various periods. This is Rozdur in Ukraine, the lower photo from the golden period. This is the photo from the collection from 1990s. So after the communism, so when Karolina Lanskorońska was sending people to realize what was going on with her legacy heritage in the places she was so fond of. This was her home when we are speaking about pre-war Poland. Vienna, it was so much about Vienna, and of course these buildings, these places connected with the Lanskoroński family. Lots of these photos we can also find in our collections. Collections of various events. The lower photo was presented so many times, also by the movies, in the movies done by Professor Miziołek. I do like very much the upper one. This is Vienna, 1926. the president of a republic, Austrian Republic, is greeting the Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Aleksander Count Skrzyński, and of course, the old Karol Skoroński is among those who were very, very crucial for Polonia in Vienna during the Austrian Republic. If you are speaking about the scientific part of legacy, so of course, due to Professor Miziołek, very soon this doctorate will be published and translated. I'm very touched, especially with the memories of Roman Dybowski. This is the guy I was writing on, and the very touching memories why English as a language was important in 1920s and 30s. And this is all, I'm not speaking much more. So of course we have also workshops materials because she was also a professor, she was making public speeches, etc., etc. So I think this is very, very important. Of course, photos of the objects of art. Today we had so much about Michelangelo. So of course she was a specialist, a very rare specialist in 1930s on this topic, so that is why also a wonderful collection of various sketches as well as the paintings. Correspondence. I don't know what about you, this is one of my favorite sources when I'm trying to deal something more with the people, with stories behind, etc., etc. We have a small touch during the first presentation. The problem is that majority of the letters were destroyed. Some of them done directly on purpose by Karolina Skorońska. Of course, she was right to do so. It was her private correspondence or her father's. But of course, for us, it's like losing lots of wonderful parts, very often hidden stories, because we are always trying to read between the lines. Not only that something is very simple, but maybe something is much more if we have this very private collection. So that is why Eleonora Rzeszotko, a governess, as well as later a close friend of Karolina, is so precious. Because in this collection, she is speaking about herself, her feelings, about her world. She is a grown-up woman very often. She is an adult person trying to deal with the world. This is 1920s, very crazy time. So if you think that Karolina Skorońska was always professoressa, yes, she was. But in the same time, she was looking for her time, both in Poland, in Vienna, and she was coming back as a docent and then professor of Lviv University. Of course, now, what is the most important collection? This is the collection of letters to various people all over the world. From the very, very top, like John Paul II, to much, much lower and ordinary people, but mostly from the second half of the 20th century. Yeah, so this is quite harming that we do not have so many older letters when she was much, much younger. Various institutions, lots of them located in Rome, because she was a Rome person. Yeah, it was her second home. Of course, if we are speaking about various letters and photos and institutions, we also have the very various materials connected with the Historical Institute here located in Rome, and of course the Skoroński Foundation. So that is why I'm always telling that we can spy on the foundation grantees. So Professor Miziołek, you should be very, very careful with us. So of course, if you are speaking about the others, and this is fantastic. Let's say I am the Kościuszko Foundation grantee, and I was browsing the archives. I was so shocked when I found the materials after a couple of years. Yes, that is me, that's my story, but from a bit different perspective. Janineum, a very important institution in Vienna, especially for generations of professors, 1970s, 80s, 90s. This is a story of my mentor, Professor Andrzej Banach, and Anna and Lone Graser, absolutely important people for the Polish scientists, not only in Vienna. And the history of Poland, we have to remember that Karolina Skorońska changed her attitudes. From absolutely wonderful, young and passionate historian of art, she focused so much to to find so many Polish traces all over the world, especially in Europe. So that is why wonderful sources connected with history of Poland from the Vatican, Italian, Spanish, German, Swedish, Danish archives, etc., etc. Some of them were published, some of them were not. So, of course, we are having lots of wonderful materials. Here, Karolina Lanskorońska was getting a special medal from the city of Krakow for her donations, not only to Krakow, but of course also to Poland. Absolutely important, especially for those who are specialists from the previous epochs, a series of documents, so Acta Nunciaturæ Polonae, and of course because of her, all this research has been was done for decades and now is continued. And the last part. Karolina Lanskorońska, this is also a person who was absolutely crucial for charitable activities. We remember her as the donor, we remember her as professor, we remember her as a person who is so crucial for these connections between Italy and Poland, and that is true. And what about, let's say, these activities which were just very small, not noticed, so charity. So we have lots of very nice documents which are not extraordinary, which are very, very humble, but these are documents connected with her activities with the people, ordinary people, colleagues, friends who were in need. In communism time, but also immediately after, we have to remember that the first decade of the independent Poland was very, very hard, and she knew it. And that is why she donated some, very often even medicine and food. We may say what kind of activity it is, but I think it is absolutely crucial. And of course, press articles connected with Lanskorońska. I promise to be short. That is why I'm concluding with the photo from the funeral of Karol Lanskoroński. You may say that he was just one count somewhere living in Vienna during the Republic. This is Karl Borromeu's church, the very heart of Vienna, and his funeral. You can see how many people are gathered here in this very photo, paying homage to the person who was an advocate of Polish culture, but in the same time, one of the most representative of the aristocrats in Vienna of the very good Viennese succession. So what I'm trying to say, in our small archives, we have one of the Lanskoroński collection is one of the most precious and rich among many, many others. Yeah, so I'd like to say it. It's a very good source to various studies. And I'm very humbled to see and to be present during this conference, during a wonderful presentations, because you can also find some scratches also to your topics while being in Krakow. Krakow is an incredible city. We can also find letters of Karolina Lanskorońska in various collections. Let's say just a couple of months ago, we opened a very small exhibition on Professor Renata Dudkowa. She was granted with a scholarship to come to Rome in 1980s to make some stuff in the library. But the problem was that she was not released by the communist regime. So we have letters of Lanskorońska to Dudkowa. Please come, because I need you. You are a very good specialist. But the reality, and these kind of letters we can also find in other collections, especially those of the professors who passed away and decided to donate their collections to our archives for the last couple of years. And as I said, it is just a small part of the history of the wonderful family. We can multiply these examples, but what is very, very sad, that we are only touching the problem and the whole world is behind our words. Thank you very much.